Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you live to episode number 27 of the Primetime Rundown right here on the Eastern Observer and the Blackjack Media Networks. Alongside my guys, Tyler, Adelle, Nick Partain, I'm Joey Jarzynka. We welcome you to Hockey Week here on the Blackjack Media Networks, presented to you by Blue Line Deli and Bagels. Visit them at 719 West Jericho Turnpike here on Long Island in Huntington, New York. We would like to welcome our special guest, Rob DeLuca, with us here on the Primetime Rundown. It's been a long time since the four of us have gotten together, and it's been almost nearly, I think, about a month and a half, fellas. It's been a long time, and so much has happened, both off the rink or outside of the rink, and, a lot of good things have happened now that hockey is on its way back.
Yeah, it's it's obviously been a hell of a ride from March to where we're at now. You put hockey to the side. We have baseballs coming back. We're going to have the restart for the NBA. Hockey, obviously football is not going to really be too affected by this with the exception of the crowds. So it's nice to be returning to some form of normalcy in at least the sports world.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild to see how not only are we having some sports slowly come back in addition to hockey, football, we might see basketball, baseball is soon. We do have a little bit of an announcement here. Baseball week will be next week, and it's going to feature all three of us. Don't know about Rob DeLuca yet, unless he wants to come on. He's more than welcome to.
He's a Ranger fan. He's not welcome here.
Yeah.
No, he isn't.
Say that one more time?
I said he's a Ranger fan. He's not welcome here.
No, he isn't.
Oh, he's already here. What's up, Rob? How are you?
I don't root for relevant teams except for the New York Yankees. Everything else is just trash. But
Oh, boy.
All right, I respect that.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to it here as we are underway on Facebook for the first time in our existence. We are on YouTube as well. We are coming to you live from StreamYard. As you can see, we have the ticker on the bottom. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have all of our social media platforms on there. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All four of us, myself, Tyler, Nick, and Rob DeLuca's stuff is all on the bottom of the screen, scrolling the entire 2 hours. So we have a full play-in series coming up. The return to play was announced at the end of May, fellas. And there is 24 out of 31 teams will be participating in Edmonton and in Toronto. So we'll have the West Coast teams or the Western Conference team playing in the hub city of Edmonton, Alberta. And then the Eastern Conference teams will be playing in the hub city of Toronto, Ontario. So let's get to it here. And it looks as if that the play-in series will start with the West. We have St. Louis, Colorado, Vegas, and Dallas all a part of the bye week teams, if you will. So those will be, as Tyler had explained it to me earlier, those guys will be getting sort of a bye week as the top 4 seeds. And then we have the 5 versus 12, Edmonton versus Chicago, Nashville versus Arizona, 6 versus 11, 7 versus 10, Vancouver versus Minnesota, Calgary versus Winnipeg, 8 and 9 in the West. And then the Eastern Conference teams, we have Boston, Tampa Bay, Washington, Philadelphia as the bye week teams. And then Pittsburgh, Montreal, the 5-12 games. And then 6 and 11, Carolina and the New York Rangers. They have made the playoffs for the first time in a few years. The 7-10 game, New York Islanders and the Florida Panthers, and Toronto and Columbus, the 8-9 seed game, all of which are a best of 5. So let's get things started, fellas. There's so much to talk about, and the reason why is because, again, hockey is back, but also a lot of guys are returning from injury. I can name just a few off the top of my head on Nick's favorite Western Conference team being Brent Seabrook, Calvin DeHaan on their way back as well.
You could have named good players.
I could have, that's for sure. But in terms of the ones that were...
I'm always happy Brent Seabrook's coming back.
Well, hey, listen, I'll tell you one thing. We've got him coming back. We also have on Montreal, Victor Mete coming back. Also for Pittsburgh, Jake Gensel is on his way back as well. Let's start things off here, and let's look to the first matchup, the 5-12 series in the East Pittsburgh versus Montreal. And who wants to get us started off here, guys?
Well, first things first, we missed the NCAA tournament, but from that, we've learned 5-12s are always tricky to pick. You always got to pick a couple 12s. So obviously, Pittsburgh's going to lose. You got to go with the March Madness rules. We missed that. So I mean, they're only getting a world-class winger back. They have two of the best players in the NHL. But yeah, let's go with the 12. We got this.
Yeah, I mean, he's not – people are definitely sleeping on Montreal just because, that's what happens when you draw Pittsburgh in round one or the qualifying round, excuse me. But, I mean, look, Carey Price can be a world-class goaltender when he's on. So you can never sleep on him. He can be a difference maker, especially in a short series like this, which is just best of 5. But in the end, you just know that the Penguins will probably come away with this in 4 games at most.
You think the Penguins? Really?
I honestly think the Penguins. I hope that you understood I was being satirical before. I mean, this is the definition of David versus Goliath. Pittsburgh missed by an eyelash getting into that top 4 seeding play-in qualifying area. So the fact they're getting Jake Gensel back, they have all these world-class players. I'd be shocked if Montreal won a game in this series. But for all the series together, it's going to be weird because these teams have no preseason before this, no training of any kind. Like, they're barely getting to skate together before they're going to have to take the rink. So strange things can definitely happen. Things that seem easy to predict could end up being completely thrown out the window. I mean, it's basically the first week of a new season for these guys. It's not like it's a 2-week break they have. This is beyond that. This is almost the start of something that's completely unconnected to the past regular season. But
they're also 3-7-0, Nick, or they were 3-7-0 heading into the break, losing 7 of their last 10 games too. So could they come back strong?
It's so hard to take those stats into account because they're so far past it. I don't think any of that momentum can carry over. Like, none of that should matter anymore. Everything gets thrown out. I mean, even like looking at head-to-head matchups from this past season is too far back, I think, at this point to even consider. You're basically just going to have to take talent versus talent. Who has more veteran players that you think will be easier to get right back into it? Who has the better coaching staff that'll be able to motivate their guys and play guys at the right times and be able to pick up on who has their legs and who doesn't? Things like that are going to end up more important than regular season stats from 2-3 months ago.
Yeah, Nick's right. I mean, this season paused in March, and that's going to – the team that suffered the most from that by far, the Philadelphia Flyers. They were the hottest team in hockey going in March. That going into that pause, it seemed like nothing could stop them at that point. They were able to pass Pittsburgh to reach this top 4 spot, but to have all the momentum that they had, there's no way that can carry over 5 months later.
Yeah, and on top of it too, you also have from Philadelphia. You have JVR returning, who was an absolute atrocity before he got injured. Nolan Patrick. Also, don't forget Oscar Lindblom, too, coming back from his diagnosis with cancer as well. So I think that's pretty cool. But you know what I do think, and we'll get to Tyler in a second because I know he's trying to get in there. Obviously, it's going to help with you have someone coming back from cancer, from a cancer diagnosis. Now, fellas, wouldn't that be like almost like a boost almost where, your guy is coming back, your teammate is coming back from something that is life-altering, life-changing? Would that be a possibility of, getting another boost possibly? Like a B12 shot almost?
Absolutely. We've seen motivating factors like this before. Look at the Islanders after Tavares left. Any team that can have a chip on their shoulder for any possible reason is definitely beneficial to them.
Yeah, they use that to their advantage. That's what helped the Flyers get hot. They've got this teammate going through such a rough time. They're playing for him, and it showed in the standings throughout right into the pause. So I would say it could be a very big boost. Tyler,
you gonna contribute here?
I didn't know if it was my turn yet.
Listen, this is all for us here. Let's, everybody is just willing to.
We could do without you, Joe.
All right. Well, I guess I'll start with my Pittsburgh and Montreal pick. I know we're about 10 minutes past that, but I'm going to do it anyway. I don't count anybody out regardless of seeding because if 3 out of the 4 people here remember last year, most people considered the Islanders season a fluke, that they were going to get bombed in the first round, ended up sweeping Pittsburgh and making them look ridiculous. So to me, seeding, regardless of whether you're a high seed or a low seed, especially when you haven't played in nearly 4 months, is stupid. They're seeded based off of where they left off. These teams could be brand new. I don't want to say brand new players, but they have time to really reflect on their play. I know a lot of guys were training personally by themselves, whether it was exercises at home or getting to the closest private rink they possibly could where they can just skate. Obviously, yes, Philadelphia definitely suffers the most through this. But you think about how many teams generally had so many players out, hurt, that are going to come back into this with a full roster. You take into example the Islanders. You had Johnny Boychuk, who almost had his eye ripped out of his head. Cal Clutterbuck, who's been cut twice this season by skates already. Cizikas, who was cut by a skate. Pelech, who tore his Achilles. He wasn't even supposed to be back till they literally said a Game 7 of the Cup Finals. That was the first time he could play if he played again this season. And there's plenty of other teams out there that are going to have some of their key players back from injury. So it's hard to really dictate anything in this return by seeding.
Yeah, I can see also too is that the biggest team that I think could benefit from this, and I don't want to go off topic, which is something that I've tried to learn from in our little hiatus here, but I think the team that could benefit most from this would be Vancouver. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But continuing on with our Montreal and Pittsburgh pick, you said it, Tyler, is that those numbers or none of it really shouldn't matter. And the only thing that I could tell you is that Montreal has no offensive power up front. And I think it's going to be a straight sweep. 3-0 Pittsburgh. Anyone want to tell me I'm an idiot?
I don't think it's going to be a straight sweep.
No, yeah, like I said, 4 games. 4 games.
No, I'm going to go with the sweep. I think it's too lopsided talent-wise.
I would probably be pretty comfortable taking Pittsburgh in 4.
Yeah, you look at the offensive talent on Montreal, and you look at what Jonathan Drouin was supposed to be. He obviously wasn't that. Max Domi had a pretty good season following his trade from Arizona to Montreal. And then obviously Shea Weber cannot do it all. And there's a lot of offense missing from there. They had Ilya Kovalchuk at one point that they obviously traded him to Washington for, I believe, a single second-round pick. So I agree. It's completely lopsided, and we'll see what happens because anything really can happen, and everything, all of the notes, everything, all of the statistics really we could shred. It's a brand new season, and it's going to be a ton of fun to watch. How about the next matchup, fellas? Carolina and the New York Rangers. And I think that for those that are watching as well are more than welcome to leave us comments. And we'd love to see your comments, to hear your comments. And not only that, we'll have it posted on the screen here. And can't thank Tyler enough for doing that here. He's a StreamYard genius, if you will.
Genius generally, you know this.
Say it one more time.
I'm a general genius, you know this.
There you go. Right. As you said before, you don't have to tell anyone how great you are.
You don't have to tell me twice how great I am. I will prove that it isn't even in my Instagram bio. Excuse me, sir.
Carolina and the New York Rangers. There is a ton. And you know what? And actually, as we're going through this, we could see Tyler's polo there is absolutely fantastic. It is an Islanders polo, and it looks like a Hawaiian shirt almost.
No, but it's a giveaway, right?
Yeah, it was a giveaway.
I wanted that too. I was upset I couldn't go to
He
that
can't
game.
have it.
I know.
It looks gorgeous. So again, as we said, Carolina and the New York Rangers. For those that are watching that are that are Rangers fans or Carolina Hurricanes fans, please give us some comments and we'll be sure to answer them or even debate you right on the air. Carolina and the Rangers, the 6-11 game, the 6-11 series. I think honestly that this one is going to go 5 games. And I also believe that the biggest X factor here, which a lot of people have, I don't think they've forgotten about, but now there is an overload in defensemen for Carolina because one of those defensemen was Brady Shea. You also had someone who was on the Devils, Rob DeLuca knows, Sami Vatanen. And there's a lot of names there. But the biggest name here that we forgot to mention to you was Dougie Hamilton, who was at one point a Norris Trophy possibility at the time before he broke his fibula on January 16th. So I've got 5 games. Carolina, obviously there's no home ice advantage in Toronto, but I think you can make many arguments that the Rangers could do it, but I think they'd have to lean too much on that offense. And there's just the goaltenders. Everything is just up in the air. And now you have a 3-headed monster. Let's hear some thoughts from you guys on this series.
You know, so this is kind of like a disaster series. I mean, Joe, we were talking about this a couple weeks ago. So I know this is something we're going to get into a little bit later in the show regarding the draft lottery. But everybody knows that the number 1 overall pick is going to a play-in team that loses.
Yep.
The Rangers have a first-round pick this year. They have 2 first-round picks. One of those picks belonging to Carolina. The Rangers can win the Stanley Cup and walk out of here with the first overall pick. And it drives me insane.
No. There was a lot of confusion on that. They cleared that up. The only way the New York Rangers can end up with the first overall pick is by losing this series to Carolina. That's the only way they can do it. It would defer. Their pick would get deferred, even if because Carolina is protected. So if it would get deferred.
That, and I think they get like the worst of Toronto and Carolina's pick.
Yeah, they get the worst one.
So like if Carolina beats the Rangers, they would automatically not be able to get.
There is a way the Rangers get deferred because
it's very odd.
Yeah, because Toronto's pick in all this mess is top 10 protected. So if Toronto finishes there, if they were to lose to Columbus, we'll get to that in a minute. But
look, regardless, I don't care. I'm still mad.
Oh yeah, no.
I still don't like it.
I'm a Devil. How do you think I feel? Hey, I'm a lottery team. How do you think I felt?
That's true. But you know what, though? Listen. What do you, DeLuca, what are you going to have? Three out of the last, 4 years you had the number 1 overall pick for the New Jersey Devils?
Nice, but it's not even what I was hoping for. I just didn't want it to go this. I literally just didn't want a play-in team to be in the top 3, and my worst nightmare came true, and it got the number 1 pick. And we know they did that on purpose, so that way they could have some meaning into their play-in tournament.
Well, that's what I was actually going to say. Do we think that it was a little, let's call it fixed in there, if you will? Because, I mean, come on. That is just too...
It's also because they didn't...
be true.
Steve Eisman said it beautifully. We saw it coming because combine all the playing teams' percentage chances, it was 25%. That's higher than Detroit's chances, which was only 18%. It just wasn't there. I mean, they did not curve the odds like they should have.
Yeah, I don't think it was fixed, but like Rob is saying, the odds were kind of oddly in favor of one of those teams getting it. But if you look at it right now, I really think that the public perception is more anger towards one of those teams getting the number 1 pick. So I don't see why the league would feel like doing that was a good idea.
It was totally fixed.
How can you do that? It's a professional league. Don't they have an accounting firm do it like every other league does for them?
Yeah, they didn't have to film it.
No, they do whatever they want.
Because of COVID. Because of COVID, they didn't have to film it, so anything could have happened.
Yeah, that's possible. I don't know. I feel like they wouldn't have given him the number 1 pick.
It adds so much more drama.
It did.
That's all this does. It adds drama to it. Yeah, you see over here, Buffalo. Look at this. Let's see. Detroit ended up with the 4 pick. They were so bad they were eliminated before quarantine even started.
It's true. They were.
Let's see. Ottawa, I'm stunned they even have a pick that high.
Well, and the only reason why is because
you can thank Joe,
we can get into later on.
Shocks for that.
Let's see. The Devils got screwed yet again. The 2 pick belongs to the Kings, but they do the first pick before they end up doing the second, so they're not on the board yet. Buffalo they're Buffalo. They can't catch a break. Like it's.
Oh yeah.
Let me get. The Devils got screwed again. They have 2 number 1 picks on their roster.
Yeah,
they have Jack Eichel. Like, come on, man. These teams.
I had no problem picking 7.
Ottawa got screwed.
Yeah, you know what, Joe? I'm glad you posted this. You see this? Look at this. Look at this. Non-qualifying round clubs. What? No, watch this. Watch this. Detroit, terrible. Screwed out of the first pick. Ottawa lost the first pick twice.
Yeah.
They did. They did.
They lost the first pick twice. They had the best odds of anybody. And they
you
got
can thank the San Jose Sharks for that.
Yeah, well, that's another disaster. But you know what the craziest part is, fellas? You know what the craziest part is that, we look back to see what everything was all about with Ottawa, right? And I actually heard a few, going off topic here, with Ottawa and San Jose, I heard a few people say, and I read it on social media, I've read it in the hockey news as well, saying that San Jose now won the trade between Ottawa and them with Erik Karlsson. And I read it, and I literally laughed at the paper. And I've laughed when I saw some people write that San Jose won. And I had to hold back. And Nick, Tyler, and Rob all know me very well, where it's very difficult for me to hold back. And kudos to me, I was able to hold back because I really could have unleashed at them and said, how do you figure? Because they were so bad, and now they lost. They don't have a first-round pick for this year. And if I'm not mistaken, I think next year also they don't have a second-round pick either from this deal.
It would have been pretty amazing. It would have been even funnier if the pick Ottawa got from San Jose was the lottery pick. That would have been icing on the freaking cake, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it was the number 1 pick. I mean, it was the number 3 pick, but we digress. It's the same thing.
Yeah, but 2 picks higher. Becomes 10 times funnier.
Yeah, that's where it belonged anyway, so.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, we do want to say we cannot thank you enough for joining us here on the Primetime Rundown Zoom interview series this evening on Hockey Week, presented to you by Blue Line Deli and Bagels. Visit them here on Long Island, 719 West Jericho Turnpike here in Huntington, New York. Visit them at bluelinedeli.com for more details. Keeping it moving forward now, we were talking about Carolina and the Rangers before we got off topic, and we haven't gotten to the predictions yet. So Tyler and I were talking off camera, and what we're going to do is also we'll let all of our fan base know is that during this time, during not only unrest in America, but also with COVID, everything going on, we want to make sure that we come back to you with a lot more content. And we're going to be only predicting the qualifying rounds in this round. And then the next few rounds, or in the next few episodes, we are going to be predicting, once the qualifying rounds are over, we're going to be predicting each round before they come on. So we'll be able to give you as much content as possible and not stuff it all in your face at once. So Carolina and the New York Rangers, fellas, I have Carolina winning in 5. Let's hear your thoughts.
I'd like to know who plays goalie for the Rangers first.
I have that written down here. Yeah. And on top of it, and Nick, I don't mean to interrupt you, but remember, just before this whole thing happened, Igor Shesterkin and Pavel Buchnevich had gotten into a car accident in Brooklyn, and Pavel Buchnevich was the one that was injured a little bit more. Igor Shesterkin was about to come back once this pause had gone into effect. But now, again, we now have another 3-headed monster. Nick, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So going back to that, I think this is going to be the best series of the entire qualifying round. These teams have a little bit of a rivalry. They had the 4-0 sweep in the regular season that's going to lead to more trash talk on the ice. I think they're 2 semi-evenly matched teams. The Rangers picking up a lot of steam in this second half, learning how to play. A lot of their younger players getting better, understanding the system, bringing up a superstar goaltender, all those things coming together for them. Carolina making some win now trades at the deadline, like Joey mentioned, bolstering their blue line. Now their blue line is healthy. They also traded for Vinny Trocheck at the deadline, so they got a lot better talent-wise. It's going to be a fun series. I'm actually going to go with the Rangers, to be honest with you. I think they have the better goaltending. I haven't trusted Carolina's goaltending all season. I didn't trust in last year's playoffs. They somehow won a couple of rounds, but it's still just too iffy to me to trust in a short series where so much randomness can occur with all the guys who knows who's conditioned, who's not. I'm going to take the team that has Lundqvist and Shesterkin, who both are good enough to steal this series for that team. So I'm going to go with the Rangers having their guys out gunning on offense, Artemi Panarin, who's the Hart Trophy candidate, and then a solid goaltender on the back end. I think he'll be able to make up for some of the defensive lapses that they're bound to have. And you know what? Losing Lindy Ruff, sorry, Rob, might actually help the Rangers defense, being he's been a disaster as a defensive coach. But in fairness, he's developed some of their young defensemen well. I mean, Adam Fox has played well. Anthony DeAngelo has played well. There was that one other kid whose name I can't remember. But they've developed some decent young defensemen. So it's odd that their defense stinks, but the defensemen are good. It's a very weird scenario. So he might actually succeed with the Devils. We'll have to see how that goes. But that's another conversation for later. I'm taking the Rangers in 5, though, is my prediction.
They're ranked, I'm sorry to interrupt you, just want to throw a stat out here. They are ranked 23rd in goals against in goals allowed per game. That's
Okay.
a lot. The New York Rangers.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm kind of with Nick here, because you know what's scarier than Henrik Lundqvist? Playoff Henrik Lundqvist. He becomes a whole different monster usually. Like he becomes this. Like he literally has to stand on his head. The Rangers don't win because they don't support he doesn't get enough support from the people in front of him. But without him, they'd be swept. They'd have been swept in the first round every year. That's how good he is. But now they have this, like Joe said, a three-headed monster with this goaltending tandem. It might not matter who they put in there because now they finally have a reliable offense. And in a short series like this, offense is going to be everything. And it's no doubt that the Rangers have a slightly better offense and absolutely the uncertainty of Carolina's goaltending. It's going to be a great series, probably by far the best one we see. But yeah, I got to say it's probably Rangers in 5.
I want to throw this in here because this is a fantastic feature that we're able to do on StreamYard now. So for those Rangers fans that are watching this, and if you leave us, I do apologize, but at the same time, I really don't. Rob, are you talking about this playoff Henrik Lundqvist?
That one?
Oh, is that what you're talking about?
That's my favorite playoff Henrik Lundqvist. But also, I mean, I'm going to be that guy. If you watch the whole play breakdown, that is the furthest thing from Henrik Lundqvist's fault. But, I mean, but that doesn't mean it doesn't make me happy. That brings me so much joy.
You mean leaving a guy wide open 5 feet from the net in overtime of an
Is it a bad idea? Am I saying that's a bad idea? Yes.
Yeah.
How good is that? You know what? I have to say this, and again, fellas, because this is the first time that our show is on StreamYard. Tyler knows everything that he's able to do with his Essential Wrestling podcast, which we'll get to later on in our closing credits. But this has got to be the coolest thing and the coolest features. And again, you know what? We have to thank Tyler for this because if it wasn't for him, we'd still be on Zoom and getting only one view per show. So, Tyler, thank you very much for that and for boosting our coverage for our show. Oh boy!
He's I love it.
All right, let's hear predict. So we have the last thing we have not heard is from Tyler with Carolina and the Rangers.
I'm gonna go with Carolina in 5. You make a point where the Rangers defense is 23rd in goals allowed per game, going up against Carolina, who for a nice 3/4 of the 3/4 season was a pretty steady, solid offensive juggernaut. I'm pretty sure, if I'm correct, the last time I looked, they were roughly around like 3.5 goals per game, closer to 4 goals a game.
The Carolina Hurricanes were ranked 11th, 3.19 goals for. And for the goals allowed, Carolina was also 11th. And the New York Rangers were, as we said, all the way down in 23rd. But the Rangers, though, in goals for, ranked 5th, 3.33.
No. Artemi Panarin ranked 5th. The Rangers did not.
95 total points. And out of those 95 points, he had 32 goals, 1.38 points per game.
So my point being, you put an offensive juggernaut against a team that generally struggles defensively. History kind of shows who's really in favor there. So I'm going to take Carolina in 5. I'm not going to completely throw the Rangers under the rug, although I really would like to. But I think that's pretty fair.
I think one thing that Tyler talked about but didn't fully mention is Carolina's style of play is always to dominate shots. They are consistently out shooting opponents, which is going to put an onus on the Rangers defense to be able to defend for extended stretches of the game, and that could really change the series. But hopefully, I mean, for my predictions wise, I'm rooting against the Rangers, obviously, but their goaltending is good enough to pick up that kind of thing. But that's really where the X factor of the series is going to come in. Can the Rangers defend enough and keep those shots on the outside to make sure their goalies aren't getting hung out to dry?
Yeah, I'm already getting torn apart for my little review here. I can show one of the comments. I can't show the other. But my good friend John from hockey is telling me this is an easy Ranger win.
Well, John, I'm going to tell you one thing, and now this is the first time again that we're able to interact with our viewers and our listeners. First off, we cannot thank you enough for the comments. We love it. We all love it. We just can't show the first comment. But no, it's not an easy win for the Rangers. And the reason why is because if you shut down Artemi Panarin, who else do you have? Yeah, okay, Mika Zibanejad, Chris Kreider. You have a lot of players. But then also look at the defensive side. Exactly what Nick said. Carolina can do work. And yes, we know obviously before all of this, Carolina was the one team that was obviously not for this return to play format because they didn't want to play the Rangers. Yeah, okay, that's fair. But again, you look at the numbers and you see who you have to lock down in Panarin. Could you do it? I think that's going to be the deciding factors. If you can lock him down, we'll see who else can contribute for the Rangers. Anyone disagree?
One other quick thing I didn't even realize. We all picked this series to go 5 games. One team has Justin Williams. Does the Game 7 Magic transfer if it's a 5-game series?
No. I don't know if that works that way.
How's that work?
Well, they'll have to win the series and find out.
Yeah.
Then it would have to be Mr. Game 5 then. That would be something, that's for sure.
I mean, if you're Carolina, you really don't want to find out, so you'd rather get it done quick.
You kind of want to get this done before that.
Fair.
That's true. And also, fellas, as we did say also, is that I think that this is going to be the coolest series. Not only with the Rangers, I'm talking about just this whole return to play format, because there is no home ice advantage for any 24 teams that are participating. So anything can happen.
I mean, in fairness, I think Toronto gets to play at home, and so does Edmonton, right?
But nobody in the building.
It doesn't matter. Nobody in the building.
They get to play in their building.
Okay, I'll go a little bit more farther into detail here than I'd like to, but do you know every ice surface is constructed differently, right? They already know what they're playing on, where pucks down silly. Like they have a little bit more of an advantage than you guys think.
But yeah, look, I'll say this: I'm not a fan of the return to play format to begin with. I wasn't a fan of it to begin with, but how funny and worth it would it be if Columbus wins in 3? Like, would it not just be entirely worth it and funny to just see this whole thing happen, and it now in Toronto, no less, just to see them go down in 3 games to Columbus?
Oh, of course, that'd be great.
Well, do we want to head to that matchup, fellas, or do we want to save the best for last?
What order have you been going in so far? You went from 5-12 to 6-11, so I guess it only makes sense to go to 7-10 next.
Well, that is true, but actually on my list here, we do have Toronto and Columbus. So as we should keep on moving here, we are
Columbus. So
I'm going to tell you something here, and it's Toronto and Columbus, as we should keep it moving here. And, there's a lot to talk about, as Tyler said, because, they're playing in Toronto, but also Columbus is not one to have, to really put in the back burner, because they also have a guy that is coming back in defenseman Seth Jones as well. But then you also talk about the lack of defensive depth for Toronto. How about Freddie Anderson? This is the first time where we might be able to see Jack Campbell as well. Fellas, anyone want to add your words in here?
I mean, Columbus is another, this year's Columbus is last year's Islanders. They lost their stud or studs, multiple. And they had a good enough season to even get them this far. They were toying with the wild card for a little while. I'm pretty sure they were actually sitting in one of the wild card spots before the season paused. You know what I mean?
Like technicality, they were in the spot. The Islanders had the points percentage. That's what went into the seeding. But yeah, technically, I think Columbus was in the eighth spot.
Yeah. So, like I said, last year Islanders lose to Tavares. They have this sick run in the season, finishing the Metro 2. This year, Columbus loses Bobrovsky, Panarin. They lose Duchesne, who they knew they weren't keeping anyway. But they still lose 3 really solid players for that team, and they're making playoff pushes. You know what I mean? So it's how do you count them out, especially against a Toronto team that doesn't do well in the playoffs to begin with?
Well, I will put this in here. So Ian Schreier, cannot thank you enough for tuning in and watching all of us. Ian Schreier is the assistant athletic director for sports communications over at Adelphi University. So let's put his comment in here in regards to Toronto and Columbus. So this is his Tavares, Austin, and Marner is better than only Cam Atkinson. Anyone want to chime in?
Cam Atkinson's not even their best forward. Pierre-Luc Dubois has turned into a really, really good center. He is completely overshadowed. I believe he was the number 3 pick behind Matthews and Laine that year.
Yes.
So he got no attention whatsoever for being a number 3 overall pick. He's been excellent the last 2 seasons. He keeps getting more responsibility for this team. He was one of the big reasons that they stayed afloat this year, because he's taken on a lot of their offensive responsibility. He gets no limelight, no nothing. He's a really good ascending young player. And I think Cam Atkinson had a really bad season, so he's not even like one of their premier forwards. But Joey mentioned Seth Jones coming back from injury. I'm pretty sure Columbus was completely decimated injury-wise. They had goalies down, they had defensemen down, they had forwards down. They were really beaten up this season. Really, really bad luck. To get everyone back could make a huge difference for them. But I actually am going to go with Ian here. I think Toronto's too good. I don't think they're going to lose this series. I think their playoff experience is actually going to play in their favor. And we love to make fun of their playoff mishaps. They keep having to play Boston. It is tough. And they keep taking them to 6 or 7 games. They're not getting whitewashed here. They're putting up big fights. They play decently in the playoffs. The one time they had the major choke was a way long time ago. It's not this current Toronto team. I do think they're actually going to beat Columbus. I think Freddie Anderson is a good enough goalie that he can compete with the Blue Jackets' good young goaltenders. They have Elvis. They have that other kid.
Also, don't forget Jonas Korpisalo as well. And also the name that we've continued to forget over and over again, because I had to actually look it up a few times. Lidis Kivlenix is the name. He was the backup behind Elvis Merzlikins when Korpisalo went down in December, or from December all the way to February. He was 4-1-1 in that span as he was the backup. Robin, Tyler, final words on this series, because I have Columbus in 5.
Yeah,
I also have Columbus in 5.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Toronto in 4. Their playoff experience will play into it, and plus, it obviously is just gonna set up for another loss to Boston in 7. We all know that's how that's gonna go anyway. So, all
right, we'll see, and it's gonna be technically, as Tyler said, on a little bit more of a home ice advantage than some may think. But as we have our insider here, Tyler, he knows a little bit more than most people do. Now let's go to the Western Conference and go to Edmonton, to the hub city. Edmonton and Chicago.
Didn't we leave an Eastern series out?
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot.
I don't know why you're jumping ship
Best
so
one
quick.
for last. And you know what? And you see, this is how we know that again, I shouldn't be hosting this show. How about Islanders Panthers, fellas?
Yeah, wait.
And 3 of us here are all Islanders fans. This is pretty sad. Tyler, let's hear it. You're wearing the Islanders polo. So
So yeah, I mean, like I was saying before at the beginning of the show, this is pretty big for the Islanders. Obviously, it's what seems like 5 seasons ago was only 8-9 months ago, where they're going on this 16, 17 game point streak, 10 wins in a row, and that was with a fully healthy roster. Then Adam Pelech goes down, and again, Boychuk goes down, Cizikas goes down, Clutterbuck goes down. With this team coming back full strength, if you backtrack to the beginning of the season and you saw what a full strength Islander team looked like this season, it really kind of gets you excited for what you could really be seeing. And Florida, obviously they make their big splash into a goalie this year for Bobrovsky. He's always, as we know, given the Islanders problems back when he was in Columbus. He made Columbus a very unbeatable team for us.
And he wasn't great. Bobrovsky was not great either.
No, he wasn't great in those games, but he managed to pull out 5-4, 3-2, 4-3 shootout wins. So it's not like they weren't beating him. Columbus rather, was just beating the Islanders one more time on the score sheet. You know what I mean? With bias included, I'm going to take the Islanders in 4. That's pretty much what I got.
23, 19, and 6 this year from Sergei Bobrovsky. A 90 or 900 save percentage in 50 games played with a 3.23 goals against average. Florida
that's not good.
Florida is also 6th in scoring and defensively in goals allowed per game. You ready for this? They are behind the New Jersey Devils in 29th overall.
Ooh, that's bad.
29th overall in goals against. So I see, as again, cannot thank Ian Schreier enough. Let's pull up his comments here. It's a series that the New York Islanders should have if the team can find a consistent scoring effort. It felt as if the team, including Barzal, couldn't find the net before the shutdown. Well, it's very funny that Ian said that, because we look here just following the 17-game point streak for the Islanders, and they went 19, 20, and 8 in 47 games. And in that span, they were 24th in scoring, and they were 28th on the power play. Let's hear it from the bottom two.
All right. So Tyler said it's a homer pick to pick the Islanders. They're the higher seeded team. They were the team in a playoff spot. They were the team that bought at the deadline. Panthers sold. They had a very, very disappointing season by their standard. You hire Coach Joe Quenneville, who has 3 Stanley Cups. You're trying to win now. They were completely a disappointment. Bobrovsky was terrific after signing a massive contract. They have nowhere to go but up. So I think that's the only real Florida advantage, is that there's no expectation for this team right now. And if Bobrovsky gets hot, they could steal the series, but I can't see it happening. The Islanders not only got their number 1 defenseman back, Adam Pelech, they got heart and soul guys back. Casey Cizikas, Cal Clutterbuck, Johnny Boychuk. Those are all guys that play in the 3rd pair or the 4th line, but they give this team an extra jolt when they're out there. We've seen their impact when they're on it versus when they're off. They now have 4 solid to above average centers, with Pajot and Cizikas finally getting to both be in the lineup at the same time. Their wingers should be decent enough to score against the defense that Joey mentioned for Florida is horrific. So I can't imagine the Islanders lose this series. You have the best coach in the league, arguably, in Barry Trotz. You have sound assistant coaches, goalie coaches. Everything around this team should be ready to go and at least play a simple dump and chase, low scoring, good defensive game and be able to grind out a series against a team that showed no real direction during the regular season.
Don't forget the unspoken captain, Ross Johnston.
He won't be playing, thankfully.
So,
No,
Nick,
that's not
how many games? How many games is it going to take the Islanders to move on? Are you
5.
I'll say 4. I don't think it'll go 5. I think they'll win in 4.
I think the Islanders are going to move on, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as people are leaving it to believe. Because just on the sole fact of because it's the Cup, the playoff, anything can happen. I think again, and as Nick said, they got nothing to play for. There's no expectations here, so they're going to go out there. They're going to give it their all. They're not going to advance, but the Islanders will take it. But it is going to go the distance. It is going to happen in 5.
I'd have to agree. Like I said, I personally do not think that, especially with the Islanders, basically they were skidding. And I believe that if there was no pause, I think, and I hate to say it, the Islanders would not have advanced past the first round. If
I gotta be honest, Joey, I don't know if you guys would have made the playoffs.
Yeah, I was terrified they were going to miss the playoffs. The guys
I don't know. The Islanders were on one of those like 2005 skids where it was just like you guys couldn't find a win to save your life.
It was bad. And the craziest part is that they also lost in overtime. That was their last game in Vancouver as well. That 2-1 victory in Vancouver, unfortunately. And that's how the season came to a close, or the normal season, if you will, came to a close. We will not really be seeing a new season or a normal season for the next couple of years. So we got all of our predictions here, fellas. Let's get to the next one. Now we can head into the Western Conference, and we can head to the next hub city being Edmonton. So the aforementioned Oilers, and also against Nick's Western Conference team, he will be seeing them in the playoffs for the first time in a few years, the Chicago Blackhawks. This one, I personally believe, is also going to be lopsided, but I do believe Chicago gets one game in here, and it's Edmonton in 4. So you're welcome for that one game, Nick, there. And, I just think that it's going to be also the last series for Corey Crawford in Chicago. Let's hear it.
All right. Nick, you want to go? It's your team, so I'll let you go for it.
All right. So I mentioned that I think the Rangers and Carolina is going to be the best series. This one, Chicago-Edmonton, I think this is going to be the most fun series. There is not a lot of defense here. The goaltending is kind of shaky on both sides. This is going to be a lot of scoring. Best player on the planet against Patrick Kane, who's probably been the best playoff player on the planet for the past 10 years. There's going to be a lot of scoring, a lot of bad defense, a lot of fun games. I think Chicago's going to win. I'm going to take a shot here. I'm going to go with the underdog. I just don't believe in Edmonton enough to pick them. After all this time has passed, it puts everyone on a kind of an even plane. Chicago has those superstars. They have those guys with playoff pedigree. Jonathan Taves being one of the best leaders in sports. Patrick Kane never fails to show up in a playoff. They're still mad about the 4-0 sweep they took at the hands of Nashville the last time they were in the playoffs. I think they're going to take this restart as a chance to go full gun. They kind of don't have anything to play for either because nobody expects them to do anything. They're going to get a shot here to go full gas offensively. Kirby Dach has been a decent player for them. He could end up blowing up after getting some more time to train and learn on the side while he was in quarantine. I'm taking a shot here. I think this is going to be a closer series than people think, being Chicago really wasn't that good during the season. They sold at the deadline. They traded Robin Lehner away, who if they had could have been a big factor in a series like this. But I think Corey Crawford's good enough, plus the superstars of Chicago, to actually end up giving them a win over a team that I think may have actually overachieved during the regular season.
Well, thanks for taking my analysis there, Nick.
Let me go first.
But at the same time, he brought up Robin Lehner trade. That is something that could easily cost the Chicago Blackhawks, but it's not going to. This is still the roster that has 2 Stanley Cups, minus Marian Hossa. Other than that this team has almost remotely not changed. But I will say that this series is going to be a lot of goal scoring. There's no question about that. And look, I've always thought Corey Crawford was overrated, but for some reason, you do have to say this. There's still 2 rings on his finger for a reason. So this is definitely going to be high scoring. It's going to get intense. It's going to get great, but it will be the Chicago Blackhawks in 5. It's going to be another distance series. But there's nothing. But Chicago knows what they're doing in the playoffs. Chicago absolutely knows what they're doing. Edmonton had 1 run in round. They were bounced by round 2 anyway, and I believe that was at the hands of the Anaheim Ducks, if I'm not mistaken, back in 2017.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I think the experience will end up playing factor here. Patrick Kane is going to send his boys into the playoffs in 5.
So one of the things, so I'll start with my pick. I am also taking Chicago in 5. There's too many people on that team that are extremely dangerous in clutch situations, one of them obviously being Patrick Kane, that it's ice water in his veins. And that's actually a very good point. There's a lot of experience on that Blackhawks team. But, one of the things I think, you say that, there's, they have 2 cups on that team on their roster. Remember, their last cup was almost 6 years ago now. These guys are older. They're a lot older. Duncan Keith is not the same Duncan Keith he was 6 years ago.
Absolutely.
Brent Seabrook, I be honest with you, I forgot he even still played in the league.
Also true.
Yeah, you forget that he's even around anymore. Patrick Kane is somehow he's an alien. He's getting younger.
You could convince me he's not actually a human being. Absolutely.
And Jonathan Toews, you're not getting, you're not going to get a ton of points from him through the playoffs. He's there for his leadership. He'll be the first one in the dog pile to defend Patrick Kane if he takes a questionable hit. He's going to be the first guy screaming and throwing things around the locker room if he has to kick his team in the butt. Again, Kirby Dach has been playing. I would say he's definitely underperforming for his, for the expectations he had coming into this season, but he's still not playing bad. When you look on the other side of the ball with Edmonton, it's McDavid and Draisaitl, and that's it.
Yeah.
They don't have. I'm not going to try and tell you that they don't have guys that can perform and score, but nobody that can do it consistently. I mean, it's funny. I was setting up for my picks earlier today, and I'm looking through McDavid's stats. Now, mind you guys, McDavid was a rookie in 2015. He only ended up playing, correct me if I'm wrong, a little over 40 games because of his injury.
I believe
the next season he missed another 20 games from his injury. I think the season after that was his only first full season, and I'm pretty sure he missed like 5 or 6 games this year for an injury.
Yes.
So you figure in 4 years, right? He's missed about
the whole season. Yeah.
This kid's missed about a full season worth of hockey.
Yeah.
He's 35 points shy of 500 career points already. He is 2 years younger than me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
he is God, but can he do it alone?
That's my point. Is him and Draisaitl cannot? They can only do it for so. Could they get through the first round together and power through it? Of course they can. We know it. You look at you look at almost every Oilers score sheet for the entire season. David's got 3-4 points. Draisaitl's got 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 points. Who's going to put up numbers for them? Zach Kassian?
That's about it.
Something tells me Tyler does not have the same faith in Milan Lucic that the rest of Edmonton.
I've never had faith in that moron.
Well, he's not even there anyway. He's in Calgary now, remember?
Oh, yeah. God, that's right.
James Neal.
And then you look at the goaltending situation in Edmonton. Koskinen, I know 3 of us are pretty familiar with him for the 4 games he played here.
Yep.
If it was even that many. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure Mike Smith is still their goalie. He's never been a playoff performer at all.
He's never been a performer.
He's a goal scorer.
What was it? I think it was.
That's the thing, though, is that so many expectations, Tyler, with Mike Smith going all the way back to his time in Arizona. Remember when he was signed in Calgary? There were so many expectations with him being the leader,
the final piece to their puzzle.
Right, and he could never do it. Continue your thought.
I was actually going to get to that. Let's see. The problem is past the first you passed your first line center and your first line winger. There's nothing there.
Right.
They got to build depth from the bottom. And again, bringing in bias, but whenever we talk hockey, I'm going to do it. You look at the Islanders. They have role players. Mm-hmm. They have guys that aren't going to score 15 goals, 20 goals a season unless you're Casey Zizekas and you just do it once and no one ever hears from you again. But they have guys that are playing into the system. The Edmonton doesn't have guys, and I don't want to say they don't have people that aren't committed to their system, but I just don't know if this system that Edmonton is running is for them. Now, going back to my point really quick on Mike Smith, but when he first got to Calgary, correct me if I'm wrong, the first 2 seasons he was there, Calgary finished for first place in the Pacific, I'm pretty sure they're Pacific. I'm very
yes.
And then it got bounced in the first round.
Yes.
Another perfect example, 2012, when he was still in Arizona. Arizona went into the playoffs that year as the 1 seed.
Yep. Yeah.
The 1 seed. LA stomped on his goalie helmet, spit on him, and then kicked him repeatedly.
It was a conference final, and it was over in 5.
He doesn't come up big when he's needed. It's just very hard to see where Edmonton is without when 2 of your 26 players are your team.
Yeah.
It's very hard to try and get it.
How long do you give the series, Ty?
I said I'm going to give it 5 solely because again, McDavid, you're down 2 goals with 5 minutes left in the third, and
He'll get a hat trick.
Yeah.
So my two most favorite series that I'm looking forward to is this one here, Edmonton and Chicago, and also Toronto and Columbus, which we just had spoken about earlier. But I think that also exactly what Tyler said about Mike Smith, I think it's going to go 5, and I think it's going to go in favor of Chicago. Why? Because if Mike Smith falters, because if I'm not mistaken here, fellas, please correct me if I'm wrong, but Mike Smith was on a run towards the end of the regular season, if you will, before the pause. He was doing well. Him and Mikko Koskinen were doing good. I think that this whole season for the Edmonton Oilers is almost like a flash in the pan, okay? This is first year of Dave Tippett, brand new system. Things are working out. Andreas Athanasiou comes in from the Detroit Red Wings. What a shock. Former Detroit Red Wings GM Ken Holland is now in Edmonton. He brings over one of his guys, okay? Now you look at some of the numbers here. Edmonton, first in power play, number 1, 29.5%. And also, let's not forget, too, surprisingly, on defense, they're doing fantastic. They're doing phenomenal. They're ranked second in penalty kill. And I know that, again, we spoke about this earlier. Numbers mean nothing now because it's a brand new season. But a lot of these guys are still here, and numbers sometimes don't lie. Could they lie now? Yes, I do believe. But I think if we look back here, I think Chicago is going to show their experience. And I think that if we see Mike Smith do his norm, Edmonton is done. And Connor McDavid, for as good as he is, he will not be able to stand on his head and show all of the older guys what he and Leon Draisaitl are capable of. Fellas, let's keep moving forward here unless anyone has one last thought on this series. And I think we're all good here, the 3 of us. So that's a good thing. So how about the next series, which I think, in my opinion, is going to be one of the worst ones of the entire playoff return to play format, is Arizona and Nashville. Why? Because Nashville has been an absolute disaster ever since firing Peter Laviolette. And unfortunately signing, let's see, Rob DeLuca, he knows exactly who that is, John Hines. Why, in God's name, would you sign John Hines when he was an absolute atrocity in New Jersey? He couldn't get it right on all 3 phases of the ice. And then also Arizona, they haven't been great either ever since acquiring Taylor Hall. And Phil Kessel has 14 goals on the season. 14 goals. That's insane. Fellas, let's hear it.
I mean, this is a comical series to me.
This series is terrible.
This is absolutely comical because I'm seeing Nashville, a once elite team, Stanley Cup finalist team, now being led by one of the worst coaches the league ever saw. And then I see a team like Arizona who looked like they were a sure thing for the playoffs. Then they acquired the superstar in Taylor Hall, and they turned themselves into a top 10 draft team. So I don't even know what to expect here. I think Ian could not be more correct. I mean, I don't know if this series is going to be faster or long. I'm not even sure. But I guess just based on just because Nashville has more weapons, I guess they'll advance. But
but you can't. Yeah, but you know what? Rob, I'm sorry to interrupt you for a second, but you can't overlook the weapons on Arizona too, because Arizona has a decent amount of weapons, and they also have Clayton Keller too, which by the way they just signed to an extension. Absolutely,
right, but they don't know. They don't know how to use the weapons. That's why they're where they are now. So it's like, I guess it'll be Nashville, and then it'll probably be in. Probably 3. I'll just say that'll be I think this series is going to go fast.
Rob's got it right, but you missed the biggest point. Of course Nashville's going to win. Taylor Hall has to get the number 1 pick.
I didn't want to say it, all right?
Obviously, he's going to lose and get the number 1 pick.
I'm going to ignore it because then that means I don't get Arizona's pick, and I don't want that to happen.
All right. But in fairness, though, I think Arizona's going to beat them pretty badly. I think it's going to be Arizona in 3. I think the factor we're missing really here is that Darcy Kemper is coming back for the Coyotes. He was one of the best goalies in the league all season before he got hurt. He can come back and steal this series. Phil Kessel shows up come playoff time. Taylor Hall is the most talented player on either side. He can't be held down for this long. I think Nick Schmaltz is underrated as their center they traded for from Chicago. He's the kind of guy that can facilitate. Joey mentioned Clayton Keller as an ascending young player. I think Arizona is actually the better team. They're moving in the right direction. John Hines, a brand new coach on a team with all this time off. There's too much dysfunction going on for Nashville right now. They have good players. They have the playoff experience, but I think the dysfunction is going to be too much. It's going to prevent them from really being able to get going here. I think Arizona is actually going to take this definitively because they're in a much better place.
Wow. That's bold. Tyler, your thoughts here?
Yeah, so I'm going to go Coyotes in 4 here. I don't want to say that Nashville is going to get completely beat up. I think that would be a little bit too unfair because, Nashville they do have some talent. They do have guys who can still get the job done. Can they do it on a consistent basis? No. But you also take a guy, as Nick was saying, you take a goaltender such as Darcy Kemper, who up until literally the day they shut down the season, guy was being talked about for the Vezina. From mid-December up until he was out, a guy couldn't be touched. And him not being around is a big reason Arizona started to dip a little bit. It's a big reason he fell out of the top 3 in the Pacific. Referring to Clayton Keller, Phil Kessel is one of those players. You see it all the time. All these guys, Popeye has spinach, Phil Kessel has hot dogs. You throw a hot dog in his gullet and he'll be fine. Taylor Hall, this is different for Taylor Hall. He's going into his contract. His contract negotiations literally a week after the Stanley Cup. So this is really gonna set the market for him more than I think people want to give it credit for. He wants to get himself one more nice contract to set him up till his late 30s. He's really got to show up for Arizona for these anywhere between 3 to 5 games.
Yeah, I'm going to come out here and say that Nashville, as we know, for the last, I don't know how many years that David Poile has been the general manager, but general manager there. But he's been the whiz of, trying to get everybody under the cap. He's been the whiz at mathematics, and making sure that there is, and just by looking at the cap number here, he has 2 guys such as Johansson and Duchesne signed at $8 million per. 2 guys in Philip Forsberg, Kyle Turris, which is an absolute disaster of a contract, signed at $6 million per, and still $2.3 million under the cap. This team is a Stanley Cup playoff team on paper, not on the ice. They are an absolute atrocity, and on top of it, too, there's going to be some cap problems come next year when Roman Josi is going to have a raise. But let's not get into that. Let's look at this one here. Arizona is too good. Again, on paper as well. And you also have Jacob Chichron, too, left-handed defenseman on the first pairing, coming back from injury as well. He was not supposed to be back for the rest of the year, and now he's skating. Just, I believe, a couple of days ago, he was spotted on the ice. I think he does come back. He makes an impact. And again, it's not only going to be one defenseman because there's so many guys on there on the back end. And exactly what Ian Schreier said as well. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, captain, as well. He's also coming back as well. There were so many injuries for Arizona at the time. Darcy Kemper, as the three of you guys mentioned. I think Arizona here, and I think it's going to be in 4. I'm hesitant on that number because Nashville at any time could potentially look like 2016 Nashville, or they could come back and look like 2020 Nashville, which is where they don't even show up at all.
Yeah, Joe, really quickly before we move on to the next series, you actually made a really good point with the cap because, I know it's not such a terrible pressing concern for them now, but, if you remember, Arizona for probably a solid anywhere between 8 to 10 years up until about a year or two ago was the retirement home for contract buyouts. They only dumped Pavel Datsuk's contract about I think a year or two ago last season.
And also Marian Hossa now.
Yeah, Marian Hossa's on their long-term IR. He doesn't affect the cap, but they still got to pay this guy. Yeah. Mike Ribeiro, this is going to be his last year on the buyout. So you think about all the money they're paying to guys, whether they affect the cap or not, and still have money, they still have all this talent that they really don't even have to pay for it. A lot of them are ELC guys or, $2.5 million contracts. That's impressive in itself too.
Right. Unless you're John Chayka, who now has just signed again Clayton Keller to a $6.5 million increase as well. With, again, he still has Derek Stepan at a big cap number that was signed with the Rangers. But then he's also got Phil Kessel as well for the next few years as well. So a lot of good things in Arizona. What are all the predictions here for this one, guys?
So I'm going to take Arizona in 4.
I'm sticking with Arizona in 3.
Yeah, I'm going to stick to my gut and say Nashville in 3.
Nashville in 3. That is
it's bold, but
yeah,
I think the experience will play the role again. And
a bold prediction there. So 7 minutes past top of the hour here on Hockey Week on Primetime Rundown, presented to you by Blue Line Deli and Bagels. Visit them, 719 West Jericho Turnpike here on Long Island. For more information, log on bluelinedeli.com. Next, Vancouver and Minnesota. I think that this one is the most intriguing matchup. Why? Because of a man named Quinn Hughes. That's why. I think Quinn Hughes has done absolutely remarkable. And also, don't forget Jacob Markstrom, who we were actually talking with his former Swedish teammates ago. He's coming back from injury as well. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely, at first glance, this does not seem like a matchup you'd ever want to watch. And then you really look into I think we can all agree here that if this was a Wednesday night rivalry game, I would really rather watch bowling before I would watch this. But then when you look deeper into it, you look at a Canucks team again was toying with the wild card, the lower Pacific all season. You look at it. You look at a guy like Quinn Hughes, who honestly, if Cale Makar wasn't playing this season, would be the easy Calder favorite. The goaltending has been, I would say, slightly above average for them all season. This seems like a no-brainer to go Canucks in at least 4. I know we're going to talk about it very briefly later, but a Minnesota team that's just getting ready to explode to begin with. You got players coming out publicly saying they're not happy. The money they have dumped in players. We'll get into it later. It's just that there's no way Minnesota wins this.
I think it's a disaster too. And Nick and Rob, I don't mean to cut you off here, but also let's not forget Zach Parise just came out, I believe yesterday or 2 days ago, and said that the time is running out, not only for him, but also for Minnesota.
Time is not running out for Zach Parise. Have you seen that contract? He's not going anywhere anytime soon.
In terms of winning, time is running out quickly for him. That's for sure. And exactly as our best viewer Ian Schreier also said as well, age for Minnesota is an issue too, because again, Zuccarello on that long deal as well. I think he's 32 years old as well, and you can't rely on him. So age is going to be a problem, and speed in the opposite direction in Vancouver is going to overpower Minnesota.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. They just signed this guy to like a 6-year deal. He's 32 years old, making like $6.5 million a year. Are these guys out of their minds?
Yes.
I'm sorry, that's your former captain, Billy Guerin, as well.
No, again, another good point. Parise was an Islander at the deadline. Honestly, having 4 months to think about it, I'm really, really glad he's not.
We would have traded.
Luke canceled that trade. Always remember, Luke canceled that trade before it went through.
That's not true. So it's
you don't want to believe that's true, but that's just what Lou Lamoriello does.
Well, remember where I work, buddy.
For Bello to be thrown into that deal. That's why Lou said no.
No, remember where I work, people. I'm telling you that deal was not canceled. I'm very glad Parise did not make his way here. Because he's bad at sports. No, in all seriousness, it's, when you look at a guy who's making 7.5 for 7 more years at 35 years old, honestly, at that point, you can't even really play age into it. I mean, you're getting paid that much money. I'm expecting at least a 60, 70 point player. To see that he's at, 25 goals and 21 assists with 41 points or 46 points at a minus 13. Gross.
I mean, you're spot on here. And look, the window is closed. I think it's already done. I think it's already gone.
The Parise's window doesn't reopen until he gets traded to a legitimate contender.
Absolutely. And
Minnesota, his window is
too. That applies to Ryan Suter as well. They're on matching contracts. It's a joke.
I wrote this down too. 8 goals. I'd say that's pretty decent for a defenseman.
That's okay.
40 assists. Okay.
That's the kind of player he is.
A minus 9 and a lot of penalties. I don't like that either.
It sounds to me, fellas, that he's almost on the list for Mike Commodore's green jacket.
Insider?
Possibly.
Possibly.
Mike Commodore
the window.
Mike Commodore is an insider of Ultimate Team mode on NHL.
Yes, he is.
That's right.
And look, the window's closed. Vancouver is better in every aspect of the game. That is going to be the cleanest, and I mean cleanest, 3-game sweep this playoff sees. Vancouver in 3, not even a question.
I don't know how you guys are picking all these three-game series.
Well, I picked more.
Does anybody not remember that these guys haven't played in 4 months? I'm expecting almost every series to go to the wire.
I mean, yes, but Minnesota's just that bad.
I don't see it. I don't see it 3. I see it 4. And it's wait, what did I say before? I said Vancouver in 3. No, sorry. I stick to my my point here.
All right, I'm taking Vancouver in 4. I do think they're the better team. I do think Minnesota's not good enough. But we have to remember something nobody seems to here. Kevin Fiala was lighting the world on fire for Minnesota, if we remember, before this break went down. He might have actually turned a corner. He was a very promising young player for Nashville that never got it going. Now, all of a sudden, he's taken off into being almost a star winger. So he might be able to continue that trend upward in this series. But Vancouver is the better team. They still struggled a little bit near the end. I don't think they're that much better than Minnesota. And I have to comment on the trade. The Islanders were going to be trading Andrew Ladd for Zach Parise, Tyler. You have to look at it. They were only going to take on a net of, $1.5 million or 2 extra per year, and Parise plays. Ladd hasn't been playing. It would have been almost money-wise a cheap addition. It would have added more years, which would have stunk down the road. But if you don't already know, the Islanders cap is going to be a disaster in 3 or 4 years when all those guys get older. At that point, you're just going to pile on and make it a worse situation down the road. You're trying to win now. Parise
3 or 4 years. 3 or 4 years. 3 or 4 months, big guy.
Well,
you got to pay Barzal in 3 months.
Now.
You got to pay Barzal in 3 months, buddy.
Yeah, but you know what? Think about it this way. Everyone's going to be in trouble. They're not going to be able to do anything about it. The Islanders RFAs are just going to have to accept the fact they're going to have to take less money. Like, they don't have the money, and they aren't going to be able to trade away big contracts because everyone's going to have money problems. Everyone expected the cap to go up almost 7 or 8 million. So this is going to be a mess for 3/4 of the league. So they might actually get lucky and just be able to sign their RFAs to less money and be able to make do for a little bit with what they got. But yeah, you're right. That $2 million would have played in big because of the flat cap now. But going back to when the trade deadline was occurring, I wanted them to make the move because it gets rid of Ladd. It brings in a very productive player, a guy with high leadership, a guy you weren't trusting to be on your first line. He probably would have been a third-line winger. Think of that, their third line being Pajot with Parise and Bailey maybe as a third line. That would have been pretty nice. That would have been a lot more scoring than they've had on the third line. Well, times this year we saw Cole Bardreau and Leo Komarov playing on that third line. This could have been a big difference. So talent-wise, it would have helped the team for sure. And Zach Parise, Rob has to have a soft spot for from his Devils days. At the very least, he did win a cup there, right?
He left me here.
He won a cup. Listen, if Barrett won a cup, I wouldn't hate him nearly as much. You win a cup for me, I'm going to be happy with you, even if you leave.
He didn't win a cup. He got embarrassed by the Kings.
He did. Yeah, well, actually, we were the only team to take the Kings to over 6 games that year.
And you still got embarrassed in every game you lost. You're a Devils fan. Shush.
Yes, I am. Right. Two of those losses were overtime.
But here's the problem. But here's my other thing. Even if you know Parise is coming here to be on your third line, are you really, really comfortable paying $7.5 million for a third line winger?
We're paying Andrew Ladd $5.5 to not play. He would have been traded for Andrew Ladd. It would have been a $1 million increase for a guy who plays.
Okay, but at least when you gave Andrew Ladd that $5.5, he played every game for 2.5 years before he tore his ACL.
Now you had a chance to get rid of the worst contract on your team and get a guy who can play. The contract would be better, but you would have got a productive player. We want to have Parise playing right now than Leo.
You're not getting a more productive player. You're getting a guy that would just play. Doesn't mean he would play well.
Let's keep moving because we got to get into that one after the show.
Fellas, let's keep it moving as we have one more series to go in the qualifying round,
which is family kills me.
Say it again.
Before my family kills me for being late, but
Winnipeg and Calgary is the next series, fellas. I think Winnipeg in 4, Connor Hellebuck, Blake Wheeler, Nikolai Ehlers as well. And I don't care with the fact that Dustin Byfuglien is gone. Doesn't matter. Tyler Myers is gone. I think that back end is going to be okay. And Connor Hellebuck has done a hell of a job. 31 wins, 2.57 goals against, and a .922 save percentage without Big Buff and without Tyler Myers, who was supposed to be the leader on the back end. But unfortunately, he's out in Vancouver now. So, yeah, that's really all you got to say with that one. Calgary, in my opinion, is getting older, and Johnny Gaudreau cannot do it all. Let's continue. Rob DeLuca first.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're 100% right, but I think just because of the rivalry, that's one thing that doesn't die over a quarantine is the rivalry and the hatred that these two clubs have for one another. So I think that literally could be a sole reason that this goes 5 games, and I believe it will go 5 games actually. But yes, the Jets will eventually prevail. They've got way more weapons. Johnny Hockey cannot do it alone. He's tried already, and it just turns out to not be enough. So, and Connor Hellebuck, essentially a Vezina candidate almost every year for the past 3 years. He is going to stand tall like he has been. But yeah, it's going to be a gritty series because these two teams do not like each other. 5 games, Jets move on.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take Jets in 5 also for that one. Nick, I'm sorry I cut you off.
Go for it. You got it.
It's just, again, one of your best defensemen is Mark Giordano, who's going to turn, I think, 75 next season.
74, but close enough.
You know, and look, I'm not trying to say that the guy can't hang for his age, but when you go up against these, you know, you see it all the time. You go up against these really young teams, they're going to skate circles around you. Winnipeg is still a relatively young team. They're going to be pretty solid for a while as long as you know, Patrick Laine keeps staying away from the fortnight. You know, I would have liked to say that this might be Calgary's last push to go over Winnipeg, and if they can't get it done now, they're probably going to want to blow that roster up and start over again. But
I agree with you, Tyler, and I got to be honest, I don't think that includes, and as the comment gets pulled up here, I don't believe it includes Johnny Gaudreau. If they don't win, I don't believe the future includes him.
If they can't, I'm gonna say no one's gonna get traded right away.
Oh no, nothing's
after the season.
But.
Well, because you got to also remember, nobody. I find it very hard to believe that most people are taking this restart very seriously.
They did what they did with the draft lottery because of that.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not saying. Oh, look, I'm sure there's people out there taking it seriously. They want to seize the moment to try and get the job done. But you're going to have right now. If there's a Game 7 in the Cup Finals, the last day is October 2nd. 7 days later, you have your free agency. This might be one of the busiest free agencies we've ever seen.
Well, it's going to be the most rapid because I heard they want to start the next season like December 1st or something.
So right now the schedule it works out where even if the Stanley Cup Finals don't go to 7, it goes 4, whatever it is, whatever that date is. So if it's September 25th, 7 days from the time the cup is lifted is free agency.
Yeah.
So then you have your free agency period. You have a 2-week break from free agency to the start of training camp.
Yep. And you have to throw a draft in there somewhere.
Your draft is...
I believe they said October 26th, I want to say.
The draft is actually... Yeah, the draft is going to be after free agency this year.
Yeah, 26th.
So I'm sorry. So you're going to have the Cup Finals. You're going to have free agency. You're going to go right to the draft. And then a week after that is when you're going to have your training camp starting.
Or... just cancel the damn thing. Start the next season on time and do the draft in like a month.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, that's going to be really tough.
I made that plea about 20 times on our last few podcasts that none of these sports should have come back to try and finish these seasons. We're way past that, though. All these leagues want to try.
Yeah, we're too committed at this point.
Well, the problem with doing your draft on time is you have so many of these, again, just like we were talking about with the Rangers and the Hurricanes, the Islanders' first-round pick that they shipped out for Pajot, you have too many conditional picks that play into the factor where you can't have a draft based on what you think might happen with these.
No, you're absolutely right. That's especially for the Devils. We essentially have three first-round picks here, and it's contingent on how
the Devils have 3 first-round picks.
Arizona's pick, which is ours, it just unless Arizona wins the number 1 overall pick, that's the only way we don't get that pick. And Vancouver's contingent on them advancing. They advance, it's our pick. And then, obviously, I'm rooting for them to get swept, be out as fast as possible after advancing.
So I'm actually really curious about this. When you say that if Vancouver advances, they get the pick, the play-in round does not count as a playoff round. No. Do they have to advance out of the first round?
If Vancouver loses, that pick is not ours. It defers to next year.
So, honestly, I know we're all picking Vancouver here, but if Vancouver really thinks they need that pick, they might want to tank. But whatever.
That's another thing. I wish I could stay and talk about it. Unfortunately, I can't. But, aren't some teams just going to – say they find themselves down 2-0. Are they really going to try to dig back into this? Or are they just going to say, screw it, we have a shot at number 1 now?
The players don't care about that. Players are competitive. They're not giving up on anything. No chance. Any player – tanks individually.
Yeah. Joe, before we finish up this pick, I just want to share with everybody the official CBA for the return of August 1st has been officially signed on the dotted line. We're good to go.
All right.
There you go. We pulled
2026.
He beat me to it. So let's see what we got here. We got August 1st. Oh, look at that. Islanders are playing August 1st. Guess who's calling out sick? Let me see. Oh, no, excuse me. Hold on. They're in the East, so that's 12. Oh, they're the 4 o'clock game? Oh, I can go to work and watch the game. Let's go.
Anyway.
Let's see.
Anyway, you got a tailgate.
Let's see. I'll be working through the Ranger game. That's always a good thing.
Tyler, as interested as we are in your personal schedule, maybe we could get back to the predictions.
No, I don't care about you people. Hey, Nick, who'd you pick? Who'd you take?
Yeah, I'm also taking Winnipeg in 5. I'm not going to be original, but what I am going to mention is Sean Monahan just got really slandered here. I'm not happy about it. Everyone's mentioning Gaudreau as their only good forward. Sean Monahan has been a great.
But you think Calgary, you think Johnny Gaudreau. It's as simple as that. He does get shaded. It's unfortunate.
Right.
Monahan's a great player, but again, it's almost like the McDavid-Draisaitl thing. Those two cannot do it alone.
Well, I think Gaudreau is by far, far and away their best player, but I think Sean Monahan is criminally underrated for being their most consistent player by far.
One last thing, because I know obviously Rob has to go. This is the last thing that I want to mention with Calgary, fellas. We forgot to mention one name. Elias Lindholm. Elias Lindholm
on that team. I don't know why you guys are so hot on Gaudreau being the only good one. Don't they have Tkachuk too?
Maybe.
Yeah, they also have. Yeah, they also have Matthew Tkachuk as well. Yep, they do. But I personally believe that Winnipeg's firepower is just too much, and I think that
all the weapons on both sides are why it's going to be a 5-game series. It's going the wire. Not even
Blake Wheeler. I just think Blake Wheeler has. I feel that he has not only something to prove, but I think that now the window in Winnipeg, again, yes, they're young, but Winnipeg, their window, I'm not going to say it's starting to close, but it's millimeters. It's closing. They're getting, obviously, they lost Myers, they lost Buff. There's a lot of players on there. And also, we want to say also, Brian Little, he just can't stay healthy. Brain bleed, perforated eardrum back in November off of a shot from Ehlers. That man can't stay healthy. But, I personally believe that it's going to be what did I say? I think I said a 5-game set. So Winnipeg it is. Rob DeLuca, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, Rob DeLuca. Rob, cannot thank you enough for coming in here and contributing to all the predictions. But thankfully, you see, you got out just in time before we started talking about Lindy Ruff.
I can't. All right, yeah, fine. Quick rant. Not a good decision. Look, not a good decision. All you had to do was give Laviolette $5 million a year. Yeah, that's a lot of money for a coach. Stop being cheap owners. Either pay up or sell the damn team. I am sick of those two. I am done with them. And look, I am rooting for Lindy Ruff. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm eating my words next season. I really want to be. But he's 60 and it's 2020. His old school style isn't going to work here. It just comes down to that.
Rob, before you go, I couldn't help but notice you seem very upset.
You should have seen me on Wednesday when it happened.
Let's add some fuel to the fire here.
Yeah, we got 3 minutes to play with him. Why not?
Oh, my goodness. Rob DeLuca, everybody. Rob, thank you very much for being on here, and we really do appreciate it. And we'll obviously have you back when, in due time to talk about more hockey and all sports moving forward.
Gentlemen,
always eat the damn Snickers with your dinner tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I told them when I could go until, and when they don't want to listen, they don't want to listen. Nothing I can do about that.
That's fine. Just make sure you read the Snickers.
Absolutely. Pleasure, and I will see you after the qualifying rounds.
All right, DeLuca. Yep. All right. There we go. So that was Rob DeLuca, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, boy, we got the wrong one up here. Hang on. Hang on.
Here we go.
We got for it. Hey, there we go. You see that? Now, does this work here? Oh, it does. You see, that's pretty cool. So we got good stuff here. Now it's obviously the three main fellas here. And let's check the comments here. Ian Schreier, it's a beautiful thing for the Rangers that Ruff is gone. Yes, well, coming from a Rangers fan, yes, it is, because now you have Gord Murphy on David Quinn's left side now. So
time out. Hold on, we're not going to blow past that one.
Okay.
I couldn't help but coming from a Rangers fan. You got something you want to tell us?
Me?
Yeah, you. Coming from a Rangers fan, I couldn't agree with you more. is what you just said.
Yeah.
Huh.
Because Lindy Ruff is
coming
not
from a Rangers fan. Are you trying to tell us you're a Rangers fan?
No, I think he's saying that the commenter was a Ranger fan. Coming from a Ranger fan making that comment.
I don't believe him.
All right.
Yeah. Ian, back me up on that. I know you're listening. Yes, that's exactly what I meant. And also, as a communicator yourself, you know exactly what I meant.
Yep. Okay, Joe. Really quickly, I'm going to overtake you really quick. Do we want to predict the reseeding of the round robin real quick?
Sure. Or Nick?
I don't know what else. What else were the other options?
Well, the other options were we didn't even get to Tampa Bay, Washington, Pittsburgh, Dallas. We didn't get to any of those guys. Oh, sorry, not Pittsburgh. Dallas and Philadelphia. We didn't get into any of those teams yet.
Which is the round robin. I just asked you if we can predict.
Then let's do it.
All right.
Okay. So I don't know if you guys know. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Let's go. Go ahead. Overtake.
All right. So yeah, basically the round robin. It's just going to be a mini tournament just to reseed the Atlantic 1, Atlantic 2, Metro 1 and 2, Central 1 and 2, and Pacific 1 and 2. It's hard to say that Boston's not going to stay where they are though at the one spot. As we were talking about before, Philadelphia lost so much momentum. So I'm going to put them around the 3 spot. I see Washington. They seem to never skip a beat. I see them pretty safe at 2. And honestly, I'm going to put Tampa at 4. I just think all 3 teams in front of them are just way too good.
So, did you not watch Tampa last year?
Yeah, I did. And then I watched Columbus kick their teeth in.
True, but this is a different story. This is just a little mini tournament play, and this isn't exactly the playoffs yet.
Yeah, but when you look at the first line of Marchand, Bergeron, and Pastrnak, it's very hard to argue that they're not a top 2 line in the league.
Right.
Like, there's almost nobody better than them. Ovechkin's. He's never slowing down. He's not going to slow down anytime soon. Philadelphia. You know what? Maybe I'll give Philly the 4 spot solely because of how much momentum they're really losing out of this. But I won't put Tampa any higher than the 3 seed in the round robin.
Wow. See, I'm going Boston, Tampa, Washington, and then Philly. I think Tampa's way too talented not to end up winning 2 of these games. They're loaded every level of their team. It really comes down to can they band together they got knocked out in the playoffs last year. I don't think they'll have that same slip up. I think they'll have the urgency coming back. I think they're going to completely take advantage this time. I think Boston's the best team. I think they're the most well-rounded in terms of playing as a team and playing a system. Tuukka Rask was a Vezina candidate this year. But Tampa is more talented than them. I'm going to say it straight out. They're ridiculously loaded. Every single spot on that team is loaded. But it comes down to can they perform when it matters most. So those are the 2 I'm putting at the top. I think they're hand over fist better than Washington and Philly. I think you're spot on with Philly not having their momentum anymore. When you look at these 4 teams, they're clearly the least talented. So I don't think they're going to be able to compensate against 3 really good teams. I think they'll end up at the 4 spot. And Washington, we know what they are. We've seen them for years now. They're a good team, but I don't think they're as talented as the 2 ahead of them. And that's basically how I'm ranking it right now. Washington didn't have that great of a regular season. It was good. But this isn't like one of those peak Capitals teams that you're very, very afraid of. The 2 Atlantic teams are better.
No, yeah, I could definitely agree with you on there. And Joe, I think your friend Ian over here got that Venmo request you sent him to tell me you were a Ranger fan. So we got that. Yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying, but it's just I have a really interesting gut feeling about it. I don't know if it's just seeing how things have played out in the past. I don't know if it's the Burger King I had for lunch, but it's a really weird gut feeling. Looking at the West side of things, it's really all over the place. Any one of these teams can really be the 1 seed. I think the safe bet, obviously, for me, would be Colorado. Correct me if I'm wrong, dispute me, fight me, kill me. I don't really care what you do. I think I would probably go Vegas 2 here. I would go St. Louis 3, and I'd put Dallas 4. You don't have to agree with me. I don't expect you to agree with me, but you're going to agree with me.
You know what? Dallas before this was done too, and I know Tyler has said, we've brought this up numerous times before where it's difficult to go off what happened in the beginning. But, now in this day and age of going over analytics and going over whatever the case may be, I personally believe that Dallas is going to come out on top in terms of, I'm not going to say they're the one. I think personally Vegas is going to come out number one. I can see that happening for sure, but I also do not want to put to rest how Philadelphia was, and I do believe that they are going to come out extremely rusty, as every team, but by the way Philadelphia ended, they were 9-1-0 in their last 10 before the pause. I think they're going to come out rusty. If they have JVR come back, I don't want to say that it's going to mess around with their chemistry, but I think that it definitely will play a little bit of an impact because you're not going to keep JVR out, James Van Riemsdyk out of the lineup if he's healthy. And now he's fully healthy again, as are most of these NHL teams. I think that we're going to see some skidding with Washington. Who's the other? Boston.
So you're going to have Boston, Tampa, Washington, and Philadelphia.
Boston, Tampa. Yeah. So my number one is a no-brainer in Boston. I personally believe, and this is going to be my upset or my bold prediction, Philadelphia 2, Washington 3, and Tampa Bay 4.
I thought I was crazy. My God.
Yeah. Listen, you need some debate here, and I truly believe that is going to be the case as well. They again stumbled as well, 3-6-1 in their last 10 prior to the stoppage.
Well, like I was just saying before, it's really hard to come up with a definitive top four for a definitive seeding for each side of the league.
Oh yes,
because all 8 of these teams, well, 4 and 4 rather, are all extremely capable of getting to that 1 seed. Obviously, you see how Boston played in the second half of 2018-19 and all of 2019-20. And they're slowly but surely turning into an absolute powerhouse. Yeah. Honestly, my personal opinion here, if we don't have a pandemic and we play the season straight through, I think we're calling the Bruins the champions this year. I think it's very hard to dispute that. But
yes,
outside, again, shifting focus back to the Western Conference a little bit, it's any one of those teams can easily grab that 1 seed. The only team that I would be surprised but not surprised would be Dallas.
Dallas is another team, fellas, that's getting older. And they are getting older rapidly. Yeah. You have to realize also Joe Pavelski, as much as I love him, as much as he's number 2 in terms of Captain America on the USA Olympic teams, he is aging fairly quickly. He's making $7 million for the next, I think, 3 years, and he's 35 years old. Dallas, and also on top of it too, Alexander Rajalov. Yeah, he's been good, but if I'm not mistaken, fellas, last year Rajalov was an absolute atrocity. So there is going to be, in my opinion, a lot of rust out of Dallas, and I think that they are the undisputed number 4 in the West Conference reseed.
I thought Tyler hit the nail on the head when he said it's hard to predict these. These are even harder than the 5-game mini play-in series because this is a 1 game each against each team, round robin. You're getting 3 games to seed. That could be the ultimate in random. The Bruins could very easily lose all 3 games just out of pure nonsense and end up being the 4th one. So we're really kind of more ranking these on who we think is the most talented more than who we really think will win the round robin because it's so hard to predict how that's going to actually go. I never got to go for my West one. I'm putting the Blues at the top. And then getting Tarasenko back is enormous. He's probably their best forward, most talented goal scorer. On top of the fact they're already a great defensive team, Jordan Binnington might be the best goalie in the Western Conference, period. He's outstanding. We've seen him perform in the playoffs before. Coaching-wise, they were able to get their coach signed. Greg Berube, after winning the Stanley Cup, he's in charge. He's obviously one of the better ones out there. He had the best turnaround we've ever seen mid-season from a team. And then after that, I'm going to go with Colorado 2, Vegas 3. Vegas switching coaches mid-year still is weird to me. They didn't play all that great even after they made the switch. They were kind of hoping to jolt things that never really did. It's hard to bet against Fleury, though, because he's another goalie that could take off and steal things for them, or even Robin Lehner if they decided to go that route. They have 2 excellent goaltenders and a very talented team. They just weren't putting it together. So that's why I'll put Colorado ahead of them, because they had things more together correctly as the season was going. And then I also have Dallas 4th. I just think quite frankly, they're the worst of that bunch. But they have Ben Bishop in goal. We've seen them play a very staunch defensive game. So they're the kind of team that could surprise by being structurally sound, defensively focused, and aggravate teams by really, really, really locking down defensively instead of trying to be more free-flowing like a lot of these teams like Colorado. Could be much more offensive out there. And if they can't put passes together against the Dallas team, it can end up frustrating them and costing them.
Nick, don't forget as well, they also have Anton Khudobin, who actually has been playing unbelievable as well behind Ben Bishop when he's, obviously oft injured. Also with Colorado, Mikko Rantanen's coming back. Nazem Kadri's coming back. Philip Grubauer is coming back. Colin Wilson, Matt Calvert, all those guys are going to be coming off of the injured reserve as they were a banged up team towards the end of the regular season, which is, I think Colorado 2, in my opinion, Vegas 3, number 1, St. Louis, undisputed easily, and Vegas number 4. Tyler, do you want to add anything before we get to the post predictions?
So like I said, I'm still going to keep Colorado at number 1. They just have they have a team that contributes from all ends of the, up and down the forward line, up and down the defensive end. Cale Makar is probably scoring more points than some defensemen score in their entire careers.
Yep.
Obviously an exaggeration, but you know where I'm going with that. The goaltending situation there is obviously a little bit of, they're goalies, Grubauer, obviously, he's probably got another, I would say, year or so of, I guess, excuses before it gets to a point where, like, if you're not getting good now, you're going to be a career backup. And I think Colorado took a big chance on him when they made that trade. And I said this to you guys back then, too. When they made the trade to acquire Grubauer, they took a very big chance making that acquisition, because you take the team at the time that Colorado was playing, the team that was playing in front of Varlamov at the time, and the team that was playing in front of Grubauer, it was night and day. Grubauer had so much more in front of him to work with between, John Carlson, guys like Tom Wilson, who's, whatever, but he's still probably as good of a two-way forward as it gets. And I think really quickly, one of the things that I think I just want kind of more an opinion from you guys, and I'll explain why. Do you see the round robin being, I guess, worth it is the way to say it? Or do you see these players, do you think they're just going to go through the motions?
I think I see what you're saying. I don't think they're going to be in there dogfighting to get a higher seed. I think their teams are going to understand how random everything is going to be and that seeding isn't that important. So while I'm going to side with your go to the motions side of your argument, they're going to just try and get their footing, treat them almost kind of like preseason games, in that they're going to try and get themselves acclimated to playing again, get themselves acclimated with their line mates, get back into the system. But I think you're right. I don't think these 4 teams are going to treat them like playoff games. They're going to treat them like tune-up games.
Joe?
Yeah, you kind of have no choice, Tyler. And, to obviously switch things up here, I love Tyler asking the questions. It's great because he does very well at it. But it's the utmost truth. You can't go all out in these games, especially when, if I'm not mistaken, they're a best of 3.
So
or the total of 3?
It's going to be a total of 3 games. Each team once. Yeah, how tiebreakers go, I'm assuming it's going to be like a regular tiebreaker in the regular season. I'm sure it's going to go obviously win-loss because there's no points. After that, it goes to goals for, and then after that, I think
they might technically go by points. They might just award overtime. They might play overtime losses into that. Who knows?
I mean, if they're going to account for overtimes, or if I don't know what their plan is, if they're going to do like straight to shootout or
right. Like I don't know. That's the thing. They could throw the loser point in there to help break ties, because otherwise you're going to get a lot of 2-2-1s and 1-2-1-2s, and it'll be a pain.
Yeah, I mean, look, Gary Bettman's an idiot, but I'm sure he's smart enough to figure out how he's going to handle that. But the reason I'm asking, obviously, is because you take obviously the top 8 teams in the league. They're playing in this round robin for a reason. There's a reason why they get this advantage to play in a quote unquote tune-up game. But do you really see players going 110% full speed? If you're Boston, you're going to feel pretty stupid if you take that round robin game pretty seriously, and David Pastrnak blows out his ACL in game 1 of the round robin. And not only do you lose him for the rest of this return to play format, you lose him for a pretty decent chunk of your next season, probably the entire season.
Yeah, but on the other end of the spectrum, you don't want to be a team that doesn't take it seriously enough and then play a team that won their qualifying series, comes in guns a-blazing and blitzes you the way Columbus did to Tampa in the playoffs, where Tampa had been coasting for a month or so, never really took anything seriously, and then got blitzed by a team that really showed up to play. So they're all going to at least try and fire their engines a little bit and make sure that they have that level they can go to at top end, but they may not go as fully into it consistently in every game the way the qualifying teams are going to, because they have to win. But I think we're going to see teams push at some point and try and play their hearts out for at least a period or two here and there to make sure that they can get there when they need to.
Well, I mean, obviously, I think the biggest thing you're looking for here is obviously the safest way to give yourself the highest probability of a number 1 seed is obviously going to be going 3-0. Only one team can do it. So, you get to that 2-0 mark, you could have 2 teams at that 2-0 mark. You see teams maybe coasting through that third game, or are they at that point where it's just, we're 1 game away, we might as well. You know what I mean?
You play backup goalies in the third game in that scenario. Do you rest guys? Do you play reserves? How do teams play that? How much do they really care about seeding? Do you bench guys in the middle game maybe, because we don't know how everyone's conditioning is going to be? It's really interesting to see how the teams that are able to be more lax in their games treat them.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I wouldn't be surprised to see, at least in round robin, I wouldn't expect to see a lot of starters going. I would expect to see pretty much like preseason football. You might have your starters going or your starting goaltenders rather, starting the first period, really playing out the first period with maybe 8-10 minutes, and then you see them start dropping to maybe 5-6 minutes period after that, and then the third game, pick it up from there. That's what I see, only because, like I said, you don't want these teams burning themselves out too fast either.
Yeah, I don't know if I see that. They're going to have to give the starters, because there's not enough games to pick and choose when you play. You want your guys to get enough reps to be acclimated. You can't have your starting goalie play a period and then maybe 2 periods and then have to play 3 periods in their first meaningful game. You want them to have at least 1 full game under their belt of understanding that this is what has to be done, 7 times in the next series. So I don't think teams are going to play their backups all that much. Maybe they'll flatten the minutes a little bit on their lines and not go full bore with their top line. But I find it hard to believe that they'll change that drastically from how they would treat just a regular season game near the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
No, Tyler, please.
Well, no, I was going to say, you take a look at the schedule really quick. I mean, teams, no one's really getting overloaded. Some teams are actually getting some pretty nice gifts here. Obviously, the example is the Islanders. They're getting 2 days right off the bat between their games. They're getting slapped with the doubleheader after that. But, it's a condensed season. It's going to be coming. There's no teams on here that are really getting beat up. It seems as if everybody was booked for at least a doubleheader. And again, look at the qualifying round, the round robins. They're being treated like kings over here.
Yeah.
They
literally are, because they're not playing, and I don't mean to interrupt you, Tyler, but they are not playing a single game back to back in the round robin.
Yeah, they're getting treated like kings over here. Whereas in, I don't see really any action. There's none in the first couple days at all. But you see teams like right away, Rangers, Hurricanes, they're getting blasted with the doubleheader right away.
Yep.
3 games in 4 days to start.
The Jet, yeah, you think August 1st, 2nd, 3rd?
It's a lot. Yeah.
They're playing
All the way
4 games. They're potentially playing 4 games in 6 days.
Yep.
You know,
okay, that's the day. The day off is the 10th.
For who?
Everybody.
For everybody.
That's for everybody, yeah. Well, the August 10th is that little, I guess that's the beginning of the, I guess that would be the technical end of regular season day where they're going to do, where all the seating gets set.
Right.
Really, really good stuff, fellas. But with our 10 minutes left, let's keep moving forward. And we don't have that much time, but we do have to say this because there were some graphics that came out for our New York Islanders. And I'm assuming now once we talk about New York Islanders, Ian Schreier is going to say bye-bye. But if you do, thank you so much for tuning in here this whole time because we really appreciate all the comments. Let's pull up a picture here. And this picture is one of the photos that we're going to be seeing come Belmont Park time when the Islanders officially come home. I mean, this to me, fellas, is really amazing. And for one that's been, I've been, and I know you guys, I don't think you guys have, but Staples Center out in Los Angeles, this is almost identical or the East Coast version of what the Staples Center has for the Lakers and the Kings, or really the Lakers backdrops on the side of their arena. I think it's the coolest thing.
Well, yeah. So obviously, when rumors of a new arena had started right away, right.
Thank you, Ian. By the way,
seriously, thank you. The support means a lot to us. Obviously, when Ledecky and Malkin took over, pretty much arena talks that had been kind of floating around with Charles Wang, God rest his soul, took off as soon as they got here. They wasted no time. Their first season here, not many people know, or not many people paid attention or cared enough. They went to next to no Islander games that season. They were at maybe 6 or 7 of them. Almost every night they were in every arena in the league. They went to almost every arena twice, trying to just take seats from here, concessions from here, the scoreboard, and just build this perfect venue. And, I mean, this is a little bit of a better. This is more of like an aerial view. This is kind of like that section view you get from like the 329 area.
Yeah,
this is kind of where that picture would be taken from. You look at some things. It obviously still has a little bit of that Coliseum kind of oval feel to it. It doesn't have that boxy Barclays look, which is fantastic. Minor little details you look at, like. It seems as if they're finally getting those standard locker rooms off the benches. No more coming in through Zamboni doors and jumping off scaffolding to get on the rink. The scoreboards, I hope that's really not it. That's kind of weird looking.
I think it's only weird because of the graphic they have on it. It doesn't look like a screen normally does. I think it's just odd because of the way they put that picture over it.
It's just like it looks like it's an oval. It looks like a bathtub. It's weird.
It's true. But you know what, Tyler? I don't mean to interrupt you, but you know what, though? Going back to exactly what Tyler said, though, it does look like a bathtub. But you know what, though? If you look at other arenas and stadiums all around the world, and even in the NFL, how about the Atlanta Falcons' new building, Mercedes-Benz Stadium? And also SoFi Stadium as well. They have a 360 a 360 scoreboard, and it goes around, and you have to look up. In my opinion, I'm not really a fan of that. But then again, I'm also one that still buys discs for video games. So what do I know?
Some of us still do, also. And actually, one of my friends actually brought up a good point just now. I'm going to go back to that picture of the overhanging, the scoreboard and everything. And actually, that's a good point. I'll get to that too real quick. The 2021 season is supposed to be the inaugural Belmont season. This
21-22, 21-22.
Sorry, yes, 21-22. Excuse me. What did I say? 2021.
Yes, it's okay.
Yeah, it's been a couple hours since my last cup of coffee. But the first thing you notice when you look at this scoreboard, it's in the middle where it's supposed to be. Yeah. It's centered. Love it.
Yes, that is true. That is true. And you know what? Tyler, I actually just put another graphic in there for the
Is it this one?
Yeah, I believe so. Let me come back to that. No, it's where is it? There we go. It's that one too. And that to me looks a little like I'm just trying to think of a building that resembles that. And the only building that I can think of would be Prudential Center.
So it has that open floor plan like Prudential. I see what you're saying there. It has that old schoolish kind of old subway station kind of feel.
Yeah.
I like it. Like I said, I like that open floor plan. In this rendering, correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like if you walk right up these stairs over here, I'm assuming I was going to say, I'm assuming if you look all the way to the left where this gentleman in the Barzal jersey is, I'm assuming right behind him is a ticket taker that like stole the scanner. No, seriously. I'm assuming that if you walk right up these stairs,
it's funny. Yes.
I'm assuming if you walk right up these stairs, you can see straight to the ice. There's no real obstruction to see into the venue from there.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I have no doubt that it's going to be a beautiful arena. It's just it's a patience game. It's a waiting game.
It is, and I do want to get to Nick because we do have a couple of minutes left, or a few minutes left actually, because we've rudely left.
Yes. Oh, yes. All right, Joe, I got it. I'm sorry. He just texted me again. Citi Field.
That's it. Okay.
That's what I was thinking. Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Citi Field. Okay. Now, and I just want to say this one last thing before we get to Nick as we conclude this. The final thing is that this, to me, for Tyler and Nick that have been to Madison Square Garden, have you guys ever been to the Chase Bridge?
I have not. I've only been to the Garden once for a Nick game, long time ago.
Okay.
When have I ever been to the Garden?
So for I'm asking. It's a simple question.
I never go to that cesspool.
Gotcha. Okay, so now for our viewers out there, you could see that this up top here looks a lot like the Chase Bridge. Ian Schreier, you can definitely say if I'm wrong or not, and you could say it publicly. We will put that on air as we have 3 minutes left. But this, to me, also looks like another hangout section, which is fantastic again. And you know what? The cool thing is it's going to feel obviously a lot like home and so much more room with different levels as well. Nick, let's conclude with you.
So the one really big comment I wanted to make is when you see that full bowl picture, I love the fact that the bottom bowl is way bigger than everything else. It's mostly lower bowl seats, which is really cool. You're not stacking a ton of people up in the upper mezzanines. It's really cool to see that everyone, like the majority of the fans are going to be right there on top of the rink. The majority of the tickets are going to be really good seats, and that they're much less up in the way higher areas. So that's really cool to see, as opposed to other arenas where sometimes it's like 3 or 4 upper decks worth of seats, but not as many down low.
Yeah. And something that I want to add in as well, and we actually put this here as a topic. And again, for those that are still sticking around, we cannot thank you enough. We do have another 90 seconds here. I want to bring this up here. And this is arena rankings by The Athletic. And for someone who's been to 11 of these buildings, I think that this list is an absolute atrocity. Fellas, I don't know if you've been to any other of these buildings, but this, to me, this list to have the Nassau Coliseum and Barclays Center 30 and 31, I think is I think that is truthfully embarrassing.
Imagine having 2 arenas and both of them get slapped at the bottom.
I mean, are you arguing
by The Athletic?
They're both terrible arenas for everyone other than Islander fans. Even Islander fans don't like Barclays, but if you're an outside fan, the Nassau Coliseum is a dump to you. It is a disaster. There aren't enough bathrooms. It's grimy. It's old. It's dirty. It's one little ring. It looks like a minor league arena, basically. Of course, everyone's going to hate it. Only Islanders really appreciate it. Come on, man. What fan that's not an Islander fan likes Nassau Coliseum?
Besides, I agree. That's for sure. It is. And Nick, I'm sorry to cut you.
We love it so much. But the simplicity is what we love about it. But other fans are going to look at that and go, you guys play there? But, I mean, in reality, they were accurately ranked. What scares me is that how is Ottawa's worse? How is Ottawa worse than Barclays Center? I didn't know this. I didn't know their arena was that bad. That's embarrassing. Barclays Center was a hockey arena jammed into a basketball arena where it doesn't even belong. How can Ottawa be worse than that?
Ottawa.
I mean, yeah, that's brutal.
Canadian people.
For their fan base.
We'll have to. Well, I know for a fact, and again, for someone who's been to in Pittsburgh, number 5 is way too high. Someone who's been to Madison Square Garden ranked way too high. From what I've heard, Vegas, that is correct. And I could tell you right now, Staples Center, way too low. Wells Fargo Center, way too low. Tyler has been there for an Islanders Flyers game, so he knows.
Way too high.
Way too high. Okay.
This was a dump, and I was almost beat up.
Also, the Honda Center in Anaheim is completely low as well. And the Prudential Center, ranked at 28, is completely low as well. Fellas, would you like to add in one last thing before we get to the credits?
Yeah, I do.
Let's hear it.
We're almost there.
I like that picture. And we can thank our friends at WCBS 880, Todd Kaminsky, for that picture as well, courtesy of CBS Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a fun return.
Wait, my last thing?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Fine. My last thing is that you rambled all these sports at the beginning that we're waiting to start and didn't mention the one that's been on for a few weeks now. We have soccer games playing right now.
End the show. End it. Stop the broadcast. Stop the broadcast. I don't want to hear it.
Oh, my God. Such nonsense.
Nope. No one. Nope. Nope.
No other sports are on except NASCAR and soccer.
Nope.
The fact they exist.
No.
And American Premier League right now. So that's newsworthy.
Nope.
I will tell you this, fellas, and for those that know about the Eastern Observer as well, USL Championship, Connor McGlynn for the Hartford Athletic, former FA Euro star, is going to be making his television debut on ESPN2 in the next couple of days. So that is pretty cool, along with his brother Jack for the Philadelphia Union too as well. That's some pretty cool stuff because he was an FA Euro alum. I spoke to him multiple times. We had him on the interview series as well. Really cool stuff, and I'm looking forward to USL Championship because I actually know people that play on there. So yes, Nick, soccer is back. I think it's pretty cool. It's okay. Listen, I'm just happy. I am just happy that sports is back. And we could finally, which again I think is an embarrassment, but stop watching Seinfeld every night at 11.
Never. That will never end. Don't take that away from me.
Yeah, don't. Wouldn't kill you to watch a good show.
There we go. And you got a good appreciation from Ian Schrader as well.
Take it down.
Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot thank you enough for joining us here. Tomorrow night, Hockey Week comes to a close as we welcome former New York Islander Rob Schremp to the Primetime Rundown Zoom interview series right here at 8 p.m. on the Eastern Observer. Also, do not forget, ladies and gentlemen, as well, I know I posted it in the wrong thing, but I will post it here right now. If we get 1 second here, we have to promote one more show on our network as well, and that is Tyler Adelle Show. Ladies and gentlemen, episode number 11 of the Essential Wrestling Podcast returns, presented to you by ProWrestlingPick'em.com. That will start on Tuesday, July 14th at 6 p.m. Tyler Adelle and Al Carl will be joined by John DeConti and John Smith as they bring you all around the world wrestling talk. And also, because he is a part of our family, we have to congratulate our good friend Al Carl on his upcoming wedding tomorrow, the 11th of July. So happy trails, Al Carl. It's going to be, I'm sure, a nice adventure for you. And we here at the Eastern Observer and the Blackjack Media Networks say congratulations to you. So again, folks, ladies and gentlemen, for Tyler Adelle, Nick Partain, I'm Joey Jarzynka, Ian Schrader as well, the best guy to be a part of this platform here tonight. We cannot thank you enough. For all of us at the Eastern Observer and the Blackjack Media Networks, we'll see you next time.